Welcome back to the Cold Blooded Sports Podcast. Today we're going to get into some award predictions.
Yep.
Then we're going to give you our what we think is going to happen in the Super Bowl, and then we're going
Yep.
to cap it off with the defensive free agents coming up this offseason. So I'm going to let Rob start with his MVP for the season.
That's right. What's going on, everybody? For MVP this year, in my choice, I'm going with none other than Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. All right, this man, talk about a transformation. This guy went in 2018 from 1,200 yards passing with 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions to 3,127 yards, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions with a 113 QBR. Also, he had over 1,200 rushing yards for 7 touchdowns, and he made the Pro Bowl. And also, if you ask me, I feel like if he wouldn't have been on the Ravens wouldn't have been nearly as good as they were this year, and they wouldn't be known for being as much of an explosive offense. Pardon me. What about you, Nick? Who you going with?
Yeah, I went with Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's the only choice this season. He was in the season. He was the best quarterback. That doesn't mean he's the best quarterback overall, but this season he definitely had the best. He was the best quarterback. I mean, as Rob alluded on, he broke the rushing record this season for quarterbacks. He
Right.
had 36 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He had a game this year where he threw three in one game. So if you
Yeah.
take that out, it's really three picks all season. Um, I mean, for me, the big jump was with his completion percentage. Getting it up to 66 is just tremendous. So that's why I have him as my MVP. Who's definitely the most valuable player and the main reason that the Ravens offense was so explosive. Now, getting on to offensive player of the year, my vote would be for Saints receiver Michael Thomas. I mean, good God, he's the only guy in that receiving core that's actually a threat. I mean, he broke
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison's record for for receptions in the season,
Yep.
and he's been. I mean, everybody knows he's getting the ball, and you still can't stop him. Like his Twitter name is "Can't Guard Mike," and teams
Hmm.
literally can't guard this guy. I mean, look, he
Those
racked up
slant routes are crazy.
1,725 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns, and he's just been Drew Brees' go-to all season. So that's why I picked him for offensive player of the year.
Yeah. And it would be curious to see if he has the same success if they don't bring back Drew Brees. They probably will, but if
Yeah.
they don't bring him back,
Or if they
what
get
happens
somebody
to his
opposite of
touches.
him, if his production can stay at that rate. I mean, he's
Right.
been in that upper echelon. Like he's been pretty close to breaking the record with receptions before.
Yeah.
So
I like that. So for my player of the year, it was kind of tough for me to choose. We could have went Lamar being basic, or we could have went with someone like CMC. So I'm kind of stuck on both, honestly. McCaffrey, he was the whole reason why the Panthers stayed relevant this year. Um, and I feel like with Lamar Jackson, the Ravens would have been a good team, but not nearly as good as they were with him, as I said earlier. But McCaffrey, man, I believe he had over 1,000 passing, like receiving yards. Is that true? Right?
yes,
It was something.
100
Yeah, he had
catches as
over
well.
100 catches. He's over 1,000 rushing yards as well.
Just a complete offensive weapon, more than just
Yeah,
your running back.
and like we said in
With that
the last
production, he's like a
podcast.
borderline number one receiver on that team.
Yeah,
No
literally.
disrespect to DJ Moore, but
Yeah, yeah,
those
yeah.
Kyle Allen and Will Greer just couldn't get those guys the ball.
Yeah, and then like what we said in the last podcast, like people know that it's going to CMC, yet they can't stop him at all, which is just crazy. So yeah, those are my two options. But if I had to pick between one of the two, I would go with Run CMC for sure. Um, Moving on to Player of the Year on defense, I picked Stephon Gilmore. 6 interceptions for 2 touchdowns. Gilmore Island was on. It was in full effect this year. Teams had to scheme to play away from him. He would always fall. I think didn't he shade best teams receivers, or was he like a
Yeah,
Sherman? I
he's a
forgot what
move
side.
corner. He
Okay,
follows the
yeah,
best guy.
yeah, and that's what
Guards
makes him
tight
even more
ends.
scary. Yeah, he guarded Zach Ertz that one game when the Eagles played them because we had no receivers, and he made Zach Ertz his laughing stock. Like honestly, Stephon Gilmore is nothing to mess with. If you ask me, he was by far better than Jalen Ramsey this year. I think he deserves this award.
Yeah, I picked Gilmore as well. I mean, he was the best corner in all of football, and I mean, just the way he was shutting down guys, and it's a passing league and it favors offense, but this guy is legit just shutting guys down, taking
Mhm.
teams' number one option away. I mean, you can't really say much more about him. He's the best corner in the game. Best. I mean, I don't think this is really close. Like, who else could be defensive player of the year? Um, so I went with him. I feel like he's the only option. And for my offensive rookie of the year, I'm gonna go with the Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray. I like what he showed me this year. He had 3,700 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, and all in all this season, I think he proved that he can be a franchise quarterback and just someone that they can build around, something that is optimistic. He
Absolutely.
chipped in, he chipped in with some with his ability to run too. So I just think that going forward, this is the type of quarterback you want. You want a guy that can extend plays, get outside the pocket, and we're getting away from those statue type quarterbacks. So I just think this season he was phenomenal for a rookie, and that's why
Yeah.
he's my offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, for sure. Good pick. With me, I chose Josh Jacobs. It was hard to choose between him, Marquise Brown, and Miles Sanders, but Josh Jacobs, man, he made the Raiders' offense look good. Uh, you know, 1,100 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, 20 receptions. Maybe not a whole lot for only 166 yards, but whenever he was on the field, he made that offense look energized. Look alive. He's not scared to lower his shoulder. He's undersized a little bit, I guess you could say, but he's not scared to run into contact. I think he is a great running back. He's going to be great for the Raiders for years to come, and hopefully he leaves his legacy in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and
Hell
on
of a career.
Josh Jacobs, like he was a guy that I was strongly considering picking, but I just feel like quarterback is a harder position to play. In the way that Kyler Murray played this year,
True, true.
which is just it's pretty spectacular for a rookie. But I mean, no doubt, Josh Jacobs is he could be borderline a top five running back next year if he keeps this up and he
Right.
can
I
stay
mean, yeah,
healthy.
like Murray is the safe pick here because like
Yeah,
Murray looked
yeah,
awesome on a team that had so many holes that they needed to fill. I think Murray
yeah. But I mean,
will.
it's between
Yeah.
those two for sure. Like, and you could throw Miles Sanders in that mix as well.
Right.
And
Right.
those three were the clear cut favorites. And yeah.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
who'd you pick for
Um.
defensive rookie of the year?
uh, yes.
I mean, I think we both picked the same guy. So
Yeah. Nick
we got
Bosa.
Nick
Yeah.
Bosa. Yep.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
there's no one else. And no offense to anyone else that played defense this year who was a rookie that was good, but you're not going to beat what Nick Bosa did in his rookie
yeah, I'll
season.
give a shout out to Josh Allen, the Jaguars
Yeah.
edge. He was pretty good
Yeah.
this year. I know a lot
But
of Raiders fans want a Max Crosby shout out, so I'll give him one. But this award single handedly had to go to Nick Bosa, and we don't even need to explain
yeah, I
about why
mean,
we decided to go with Nick Bosa. For my
80
coach of the year,
pressures.
oh, go ahead, my
Crazy,
bad.
man.
Yeah,
Nah, you're good. I was gonna say he had 80 pressures. Believe he had 9 sacks. He had 1
yeah,
interception
and a
on a
lot of people
single play.
get the thing with like sacks is sacks don't always tell the story.
Right.
I always look at pressure numbers. I think pressure rate is more important than the sacks
Yeah.
because like
Mhm.
you can have a high pressure rate and not a lot of sacks, but if you're putting pressure on the quarterback, you're making them
You're
step
winning.
up or move to another side. And Bosa's getting chipped every play.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure. I mean, and
and
also, like, it's not helping going against a lot of good linemen in the NFC West. You have people like
yeah,
Dwayne Brown, Andrew Whitworth, and you're going against people like that scheme around you, and you're still putting up 80 pressures a year. And like Nick said, sacks don't say the whole story. Having 80 pressures means that you're making the quarterback think twice. You're getting him out of his comfort zone. Like, and that's hard to find for like a consistent week to week basis for a player.
yeah. I mean
And the
they
fact
got
that
a
he can
true
do
number
that.
one edge
Oh
rusher,
yeah,
and
yeah, totally.
that's all you can ask
But,
for.
yeah,
And
but go
with
ahead.
my coach of the
Next one.
year, I went with John Harbaugh. I mean,
Mm,
14-2, best record. They had an explosive offense. And I think the thing that set Harbaugh apart this year, like I know it came back to bite him in the playoffs, but just the forward thinking, like to not settle for punting at midfield and stuff like that, like going for it on fourth and short. I think that really was beneficial to the Ravens
mhm.
this year, having that analytical guy in his ear and helping him out. So I give him props for being a forward thinking coach, but still like relying on like actual football concepts And I mean, the Ravens were just they had the best regular season, and so I had to give some love to my guy John Harbaugh.
I like that pick. For me, I took someone else. I took Kyle Shanahan. It might be a pretty blatant pick aside from Harbaugh. His team was second in points with 30 a game, second with rushing yards with 144 a game, and fourth in yards for 381 a game. He finds a way to get all. He tries to find a way to get all of his players involved, whether it be Matt Breida, Tevin Coleman, Jarek McKinnon, people like that, or getting the ball to George Kittle when he needs to. Looking at Emmanuel Sanders, it's just he is an offensive mastermind. I feel like he is what every NFL team wants to have as a head coach. He knows how to read teams, adjust at halftime. And I mean, look at him. He went from being so last year the Niners had the number 2 pick in the draft, and now they're in the Super Bowl. It's just crazy to me. They play in one of the most toughest divisions in the entire league, and they still made the number 1 seed. The whole playoffs ran through San Fran. I think it's just a great environment that he's built in that city. So that's my coach of the year.
Yeah, I mean, and to just go in more on Shanahan, I mean, I mean, outside of Andy Reid and Sean Payton, he's probably up there with the best offensive minds in the league, as you said. And I mean, the Niners are just a complete team, and that offense, man, they just can pick you apart. Whether that's running the ball,
Yeah.
getting just it's just such a crazy offense because you don't know who's going to show up. You don't know who's going to have a big game. And
Hmm.
that I got to give that a lot of credit to Shanahan for that, for just scheming these guys open and using these weird players and making it work. So
Right.
now we can get into the Super Bowl, and before we give you our predictions, we're gonna kind of talk about the game. And but the main thing for me that I think stands out to this game is a lot of people, when you think about this game, you're thinking about you're thinking about the Chiefs offense versus the Niners defense. But I think the most important matchup is the flip side of that. I think it's the Niners offense going against that Chiefs defense. Because I mean,
Really.
you look at it, yeah, I think that's what's going to decide this game. Because I mean, if the Niners, if their offense can be explosive, because the Chiefs defense, I mean, they've improved, but they still have a lot of holes. Their linebacking core
Hmm.
is not that good. Um, their corners, their defensive backs. I mean, outside of Tyrann Mathieu, it's just a bunch of
Yeah.
guys. But I mean, when they get a lead, they play with confidence. So if the Chiefs can get up, I think that helps them. I mean, and up front, they just got Chris Jones, really, Frank Clark off the
Yeah. I
edge.
mean, yeah,
So,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
think the Niners offense with all these weapons they have, um, and just the way that Shanahan can do such a great job of exploiting mismatches. Like if you look at the NFC Championship, he attacked Blake Martinez the whole game, just
Yeah.
because he
I
can't run
mean,
sideline to sideline.
we know how
Um,
you feel about Blake Martinez, and I bet you
so
had a
he would
blast.
just he just attacks your weakness. So I feel like that could come back to haunt the Chiefs because they have similar linebackers. Anthony Hitchens, he's a bigger guy. Reggie Ragland, he's a bigger guy. And if they're on the field, it's going to be hard running sideline to sideline. So and
Hmm.
yeah, I'll let you get some points in before I come back to my next few
No, yeah,
points.
you're good. I mean, for me, I feel like aside from making Mahomes uncomfortable in the pocket, we have to try and stop Tyreek Hill, and we know that Sherman doesn't travel; he stays on the right side of the field. So if they can get Tyreek Hill on the other side of the field, I think they're gonna have a better experience. Uh, I did see a thing. I think it was on PFF where Sherman plays. So Richard Sherman plays on the right side of the field, but the Chiefs' passing game works better when they attack the left side. So I don't expect Andy Reid to hide from that. I think that they're going to move Kelsey to the left a lot more. They're going to move Tyreek Hill more to the left. They're going to try and expose their second corner. Create mismatches. Although the Niners have 3 of the top 15's best coverage linebackers, I feel like no one's stopping Travis Kelsey on that defense. You can only contain someone for so long. I feel like you know I also know that the Chiefs were ranked 31st against the zone runs this year, so I do expect Shanahan to attack zone runs, whether it be with Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, put in some RPOs. I just feel like it's going to be a game won by the coaches, not by the players. I feel like they're going to have to make a great scheme to help whoever wants to win that game win the most. But back to you, Nick.
And then to talk about the Niners, I just feel like that defensive line, their front four. I mean, if you look at the matchups up front, they have an advantage over everybody
Everyone.
outside of Mitchell Schwartz, and
Yeah.
he'll be going against D Ford. But when you're looking at Nick Bosa versus Fisher, the left tackle, that's a tremendous mismatch, and they're gonna have
Eric
to send help
Armstead,
over there.
LaForest Buckner,
Um,
all those.
yeah, and for the Chiefs, I just think that they have to find a way to stop the run and get the. I know this is pretty cliche, but they need to get the Chiefs and I mean the 49ers in third and long situations to where they can't just come off and just punch you in the mouth like they want to.
You know what's crazy,
And
Nick?
what's up?
I saw a stat real quick where it says that Kansas City won't load the box against the run game. They actually have the least tendency to load the box,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they
yeah.
want them to
So
run.
that is kind of
So
true,
I don't
but
know how.
against the, I mean, the way they run the ball with those track guys they have, um, I don't know. It could be a mismatch. And
Yeah,
another note on the Niners is they have struggled with mobile quarterbacks this year. Whether that be Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, or Kyler Murray, they've all given them fits because the 49ers send four a lot. They don't really blitz that much because they get so much pressure with that front four.
right.
So I think if Mahomes is able to extend plays and get outside the pocket and just keep his eyes down the field and just feel the rush, I mean, just do stuff that he normally does. I mean, it's going to give them a good chance to win this game.
Yeah, Mahomes being comfortable and in a rhythm is the most scariest thing that you can let happen to him. On Sunday, if Mahomes is feeling it, there's no going back. He's gonna go crazy. Um. Also, question for you, Nick. Do you think that Tyrann Matthew is gonna man up against Travis Kelsey the whole game, or will the Chiefs stick to his zone defense?
I mean, you said
Because
so. You think
there's no
Matthew manned up on Kittle? I
no,
think you said
yeah, yeah,
Kelsey.
my bad, Kittle. Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think any linebacker on the Chiefs is gonna have a
that is
fun
true.
time guarding.
They'll
And it's
probably
like,
just have to double him honestly,
yeah,
and that kind of can create problems too because you got like Debo Samuel who's emerged out the slot, Emmanuel
hmm
Sanders a solid number one.
yeah.
So,
I
and
mean,
I mean, yeah, like you said, the Chiefs don't load the box, but I mean, the Niners can run it regardless of what you do, which is so crazy
yeah,
about them. Because I mean, the Packers just they got absolutely punched in the mouth
yeah,
by
and
that
then plus,
San Francisco front
yeah, and then plus having Kyle Juszczyk in the game, it gives
as
them
a
a great
mismatch.
way to.
Yep,
Yeah, I mean, like
he's
honestly,
like
the
a
Niners'
tight end,
offense is
fullback,
so
wide
scary.
receiver. It's kind of like positionless football if you think about it. They use
It is.
guys like Debo Samuel. They use him at running back and receiver. Um, you use check out wide,
I know,
tight
like
end.
back when, yeah, and then back when Sanders was on the Broncos, he ran a few fake plays where he threw the ball up to receivers. So you never know, you know.
Yeah, so I mean, all in all, at the end of the day, I think the Chiefs will pull this one out. I think Big Red gets his first ring. So I'm taking the Chiefs
Ooh,
31 to 24 over the Niners. I
that's
think Patrick
crazy.
Mahomes is Super Bowl MVP. He's going to put up some crazy numbers. I think it'll be pretty slow at first. It'll be a slow starting game, and then it's going to pick up. Um, just I'll let all the nerves settle out, and I think it'll be a pretty exciting Super Bowl. So that's my prediction for Super Bowl 54.
31-24.
Yep.
See, with me, I'm picking the Niners to win Super Bowl, but it's not going to be, like it won't be a low scoring game. Obviously, I'm gonna go with a game like the Patriots versus Eagles. I'm gonna go 40-33. I'm gonna say that the Niners win it because they just have a stronger offense and their defense is going to come out slow, but they're going to get it together at halftime and they're going to start doing the right things. So 40-33.
Yeah,
I also
I
feel
think.
like they're going to.
Go ahead. My bad.
Okay, I got it. We have this thing on our Twitter that we posted. It was a poll. Will it be over or under 60 points combined? Follow us on Twitter at Cold Blooded Chat if you guys don't already. Um, a lot of you guys picked over 60 points. I'm going over 60 points here. I'm going to go, what is that, 70, 73, I believe.
Hmm.
You're going with 25 or no, 55 points. That's surprising to me, having two, extremely active offenses not reaching at, 60 points in the most important game of the year. I don't know, man. That defenses besides the Niners don't look like they're gonna get a lot of stops, man.
Yeah, see, but the thing for me is like Jimmy Garoppolo, for as good as he is as a quarterback, his one weakness is definitely throwing picks to linebackers and just guys that are controlling the middle of the field. Like Eric Kendricks picked him off like several times in that playoff game, just from him not. He just doesn't see linebackers over the middle of the field. So I think the Chiefs come away with the Jimmy G. They're going to pick him off once, and I think that's going to be the turning point in the game. It'll probably be a swing because the Chiefs can score.
Yeah,
Um, so that's
interesting.
I just think that'll be the factor, the X factor, the turning point of the game is somebody is going to pick off Jimmy G, and the Chiefs are just going to roll from then on out.
All right, I know because as you mentioned earlier, and you said it yesterday, a team was it a young defense or whatever it is, and or like it was something about the Chiefs' defense, like they're scarier. What
Yeah,
was it?
I mean, when you get like a Chiefs defense, like a defense that on paper isn't good, but when they're playing with confidence and they feel like they can make these plays or somebody gets an interception, it's gonna set this
Yeah,
defense. Yeah, like kind of like against the Titans. I mean, they were motivated to stop Derrick Henry. You had a guy, Frank Clark, come out to say that Derrick Henry doesn't run hard enough for a guy that big. He's pretty soft, and I mean they came out and played. Um,
yeah, they did. Alrighty. So now that we've done our predictions for the bowl, we're gonna move on to our final topic of this podcast. It's gonna be the defensive free agents that are coming out for 2020. Let's start off with edge rushers. This can be 3-4 ends, or sorry, 3-4 outside linebackers, or 4-3 ends. There's no preference. So the first one we have on our list, and I think most important is Clowney. Okay, he was traded before the season started to Seattle. Um, we know how good he's a good player. We know that all for sure. But do you think he's going to ask for too much money, Nick?
I feel like he's gonna get paid, and I don't think Seattle keeps him. I think somebody's just gonna throw a lot of money at him.
But didn't they trade for him though? Wouldn't that be a
Yeah,
wasted trade?
but they got him for a third round pick, and if he left, they get a third back.
Oh, comp. Okay,
In this
okay.
yeah with a comp pick. So for them, it was just let's see if we can get this guy in and push for make a push at a chip, and it didn't work
Yeah,
out. And I just think that I don't know. I mean, I think they'll try to re-sign him, but I just think that somebody is gonna drop a bag
some
on
money.
Jadeveon Clowney. And I don't think the
Is
Seahawks are pretty smart. They're a smart organization. I mean, they don't draft well, but they're pretty smart. So I don't think they would overpay for Clowney like a team like the Giants. I think that was a report. The Giants are willing to throw big money at him. So
hope they don't go to the
I
Giants. Yeah,
don't
I mean,
think that they would overpay for Clowney. But if it's the right price range, I mean, of course they want to bring him back. But I think a guy like that on the market, just because of his name and what he did in college, like people still think about that one play. He's
that
been
one
living
hit
off
when
that
he went
one
to
hit
Seattle.
forever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think that's gonna get him paid because people see the freakish athleticism and just how
yeah.
I mean
Like
he just looks
he's aggressive.
like he just looks like
Um,
your typical edge rusher.
yeah, for sure. So for the second D end we have here, we have Yannick Ngakwe. I believe he's not coming back to Jacksonville. And if the Giants don't pick up Clowney, that's who they're gonna go get. I would want him. I mean, the Eagles. I I want the Eagles to go get him, but I've heard rumors that they're targeting receivers or corners. Um, and again, end isn't a big need for us in Philly, but having someone like Yannick that young and that talented is always a plus. I think he's for sure leaving Jacksonville. He's been posting a lot of things on Twitter lately, throwing subliminal hints that he's not returning, and that's fine. I mean, Jacksonville, they're going through some motions right now anyway. You have aging Calais Campbell still there, people like that. I just don't think he's going to come back. You have any takes on that, Nick?
Yeah, Yannick is definitely out the door. I think potential suitors for him would be the typical edge needy teams. The Raiders, maybe the Ravens, the Giants, just teams looking to just improve their edge position. I think those are some fits because the way he's been talking, he's definitely out of Jacksonville. Jacksonville's having some problems with keeping
Yeah,
these elite players, so they got to figure that out. But for
yeah,
sure, Yannick is looking at a bag as well. just like Clowney.
Mhm.
I think the top three guys are just, they're going to get bags from teams.
Okay, so here's where it gets interesting though. My third person at the end might not be yours. I'm going with Shaq Barrett.
That's
You
it.
know,
Yeah, that's what I was talking
yeah, I mean, yeah, but like,
about. Tampa
do
Bay is
we
going to drop a
right? But
huge bag on him.
the whole question is, I mean, Shaq Barrett was decent in Denver. Like, don't get me wrong,
Well, I
but
mean, he was
do
stuck in a
we feel like
rotation though.
with Von Miller? Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but was it a fluke this season? Do they want us? You
Well,
know,
I
was
mean,
it
what he
gonna
was
not
doing at
be
the beginning of the season wasn't like it, you can't keep that level of play up.
depth
What he
level
was doing
play up?
those first,
I
yeah. But I mean, for the Bucks, I mean, outside of him, they have nothing on the edge. They're
yeah,
built up front. They got the big dudes in the middle, but on the edge is really just him. So I mean, I think for them, they
is it
they, they have to
a
resign.
reassuring signing? You think?
Yeah, I think he's the first guy that I would be willing to bet that he ends up on the Buccaneers.
Okay.
I'm not sure about Yannick or Clowney if they'll come back to their teams. Yannick, I don't think he comes back to Jacksonville at all. But
Mhm.
I think there's a chance Clowney comes back. But with Shaq Barrett, he's for sure going to be a Buccaneer, in my opinion. I'm not sure though, like
Okay.
about those other two.
Do you have any other any D linemen like edge rusher wise you want to talk about? You want to move
There's two guys that I want to kind of talk about real quick. I think a guy like Eric Armstead. Um,
on?
I think he's a guy that somebody be willing to pay because the Niners can't bring him back because their cap situation. Um, So I mean, he's a guy that can play outside on first and second down on those run defending downs, and then in pass situations, he can slide inside and rush from the interior. So I think that's a valuable asset to teams. Another
Yeah,
guy that I wanted to talk about was Dante Fowler, and I think he'll hit the market as well. I mean, he
he's not keeping
completely
him.
turned. They can't. I mean, their money like
Probably
it's unlikely they can keep him. Um, but he's a guy that like completely like out of Jacksonville, like he flashed, but this season it's probably been his best season in the league. So I think that's good for him, and somebody like would definitely be looking to pay him.
not. All right, I like it. Let's get rid of the next, I think, most uneventful area on the defense for free agents. Let's talk about D lineman. The only good D tackle that I know that's going to get paid is Shelby Harris. I mean, aside from that, no one else
Well,
really.
you
I
got
mean, like
DJ
Gerald
Reader
McCoy,
from the
DJ
Texans,
Readers, Devon Hargrave,
Javon
yeah,
Hargrave, Leonard
Kong
Williams,
Su, Mike
Michael
Daniels,
Pierce.
Michael. I mean, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know because a lot of these guys are over 30.
Well,
Like
you got Chris
Rockers,
Jones as
Sue, and
well.
oh yeah, well, Chris Jones. I forgot about him. Yeah, Chris Jones. If the Chiefs are
He's
smart enough,
IDL
they'll
one.
probably.
He's the best interior defensive. Yeah, I think they're definitely going to try to bring him back because he's their best player on defense.
I mean, but yeah, like aside from the top three, as in Shelby Harris, DJ Reader, and Javon Hargrave,
Well, no,
I
yeah, I
think
mean, not a lot of these guys can rush the passer. So, I mean, outside of Leonard Williams and I'm not sure about Hargrave, but a lot of the guys we mentioned are more like run stuffing interior defensive linemen like Michael Pierce and DJ Reader. So, I don't think a team's going to necessarily break the bank on one of them. But I mean, as a Ravens fan, I would for sure want to see Michael Pierce back. That's a big body. Um, and I know
yeah.
DJ Reader is pretty good for the Texans as well. With the Giants with Leonard Williams, that's pretty interesting. They traded for him
That's
mid-season.
what's stupid. Like I don't, I didn't. Me and you never liked that trade. Like we
Yeah,
never
I
liked.
just I just think that they have too many interior guys as it is. They drafted one in the first round. They have Dexter Lawrence, Dalvin Tomlinson, I believe his name is. They drafted a guy, I think his name is BJ Hill, a couple years ago in the fourth or third.
Oh yeah,
They're
yeah,
just
yeah.
piling up on these interior um, run
D
stoppers. But
lineman.
that's another story for another day. We'll get into that when we preview the NFC East. Um, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
I mean IDLs outside of Chris Jones, you're not looking at a lot of guys that are going to get a bag, get that big paycheck. But
I
out
do
of this
expect
group,
a lot of 1 year deals
oh yeah, for
from this
sure.
group. Yeah. Um, let's move on to coverage slash interior linebackers. The main headliner here is Corey Littleton. I think he's going to get a bag. You know, he kind of came onto the scene super, out of nowhere 2 years ago. He's a
Former
great
college
coverage linebacker.
safety.
Yeah, he has the speed. He's almost like when they had Mark Barron, but he's just a younger and better Mark
And
Barron.
a
You know what I mean?
way, yeah, way better version. Like he's
Yeah.
just a modern NFL linebacker, what you look for. He can I mean, he's never gonna be that thumper, but I mean, in today's NFL, you don't necessarily need a thumper. I think coverage is more important, and I think that's the way the game is going. And the Rams, they don't have money to keep these guys. And I think Corey Littleton could be looking at a nice contract somewhere in that 13 to $15 million a
Jordan
year range
Davis
from
type.
some team.
Yeah. I agree. I think he's going to get a decent contract wherever he wants to
I mean,
sign.
the only other notable linebackers are you
Joe
got Joe
Schobert,
Schobert,
Blake
Jamie
Martinez,
Collins, Blake Martinez, um, the Bears linebacker Kwiatkowski. I mean,
Kwiatkowski.
Kwiatkowski actually showed me some things. Um, he was pretty good in coverage once Danny Trevathan went down. He played pretty well next to Roquan Smith. Now, Blake Martinez is a tackle machine, but he's horrible in coverage. One of my least favorite players in the league. Jamie Collins is interesting because he brings a lot to the table. He's a freak athlete, can rush the passer, solid in coverage. Now Joe Schobert is kind of similar, just less athletic.
Joe
He's more
Schobert is also a
that
tackle machine.
run stuffer, tackle machine. He can actually get after the quarterback a little bit um,
Yeah.
from that linebacker position, so that's kind of valuable. But the cream of the crop in this linebacker free agency class is definitely going to be Corey Littleton. I think he's the true game changer out of this group
Yeah. He's going
for
to get the
whatever
most
team
money.
gets
No
him.
doubt.
And after that, we
Yeah.
can get into the corners. And I think the main guy that everybody thinks about off rip is definitely going to be Byron Jones.
Mm, athletic
I
freak.
don't think the Cowboys can keep him. I think they're going to have to tag Dak and re-sign Amari because of what they gave up to get him. So I think Byron Jones then becomes the odd man out. So I mean, a lot of teams could use a Byron Jones. Philly could use a
The
Byron Jones. The
Eagles love
Cardinals could
Byron.
use a Byron Jones.
What folks
Um,
forget about too is I didn't mean to cut you off, but like even though he was awful at safety, that's where he was from originally. And like with him being so gifted athletically, you can move him all around that defensive back area. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
he's gonna be a hot commodity, not only for his skill set as a corner, but for his versatility. I just wanted to point that out there.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I
you can go back
mean,
to what you.
he's definitely best at outside corner because of his athleticism. That he can jump out the gym. Just a total, just what you want in the number one corner. Um, but the next guy, I think the number two guy in this class is going to be Chris Harris Jr. He's a versatile guy. He can play inside out, probably better in the slot at this point. But I mean, he can still step outside. Even though he's up there in age, he still was pretty solid this season. So I think teams that miss out on Byron Jones could probably look at a guy like Chris Harris. I think he could definitely fill the void for some of these teams in their secondaries and improve them. So, anything you want to say about Chris Harris?
Yeah, I mean the Eagles. Teams wanted Chris Harris before the trade deadline.
Yeah, and they Denver didn't want to trade him.
Wasn't Never did want to trade him, and I don't blame any team for not going out there and getting him because he was going to be a free agent and he is getting up there in age. I think Chris Harris is better off just playing in the slot like he's always been great at. Um, but I do expect his skill to drop off a lot in the next 2 or 3 years. So I would not go crazy signing him to a large deal. But
Um,
CB might do it, but I wouldn't
yeah,
personally.
and then another guy that I thought was pretty notable on my out on the outside corner section of this list is I mean a guy that Eli Apple. I mean
Hmm.
he's not necessarily he's kind of like the it's kind of like the Gary on Conley thing. He's very good in man. So if he could find a team that plays a lot of man, like the Lions, the Patriots, the Dolphins, team like that is a very man dependent scheme. I feel like he could excel in that. Um, that's just a notable guy I was talking about. Kendall Fuller for the Chiefs. I
Yeah,
think
I
he
have
could
a few
be
more after.
a guys that miss on the top tier. He could be a guy teams look at. Um, then I have
Yeah.
two slot corners, but I'll wait. You can tell me who you have on the outside or two
Yeah,
notable
so
guys.
I was gonna mention, you have Ronald Darby. The Eagles brought him back on a 1 year deal last year. When they traded for Ronald Darby, they did not get who they thought they were gonna get. Um, and part of that is Jim Schwartz's fault, but he did play in Buffalo. I mean, you know, Ronald Darby never really got to play to like the that level that we wanted him to play at. Um, Huge drop off. He's always getting injured. He's not going to come back to Philly for sure. For sure. I could see a team like maybe the Cardinals picking him up. Someone because
Teams with
Darby
a
is a
lot of
man
money.
corner. Yeah, Darby's a man corner. So maybe someone like the Dolphins or Pats, as you mentioned. But yeah, he did not excel well in our zone skit or our zone scheme fit. So yeah, and then I think we both have one of the same nickel cornerbacks, and that's going to be Logan Ryan, right?
Yeah, I had Logan Bryan.
Yeah, yeah. Logan Ryan. I mean, I'll just talk about him for a little bit. He's a good corner, a good inside corner, not scared to tackle. I want him to come to Philadelphia. Tony Pauline has had him linked to coming to Philadelphia for the last 2 weeks. Um, he grew up right outside of Philly, and we need a slot corner. I mean, we don't need a slot corner. I mean, we have Avante Maddox, but I would prefer him to play outside. But that's where he might come to Philadelphia, and that's where I could see him being suited at best. But I'll let you
Yeah,
go ahead.
and when you get a guy like Logan Ryan, I mean, he's just a very good corner. He can do a little bit of everything. He can play some man, play some zone. I think the most underrated part of his game is definitely his ability to tackle. He's definitely one of the better tackling corners. I mean, what he did against Baltimore, he did a very good job of tackling in space. So that really made him stand out in my eyes. And the last guy I want to talk about in this corner class is a guy that's underrated. I'm surprised he didn't get paid last year. The Jets scooped him up on a 1 year vet minimum deal, and that's going to be Brian Poole from the Falcons. I mean,
Oh
this guy
yeah,
has always been just a plug and play nickel corner. You see what you get, and he's been very good at it. So I don't know why he slipped through the cracks and was able to. The Jets picked him up on that little rinky dink contract, but I think he's a guy that
trade off.
teams could be looking at to fill that nickel void on their squad.
Um, Going on to safeties now. I only have about three ones that are noticeable, or sorry, notable. Um, let's just start off with some obvious ones. Rodney McLeod, my guy on the Eagles. We're not bringing him back. I don't want them to bring him back. He plays fair for us, but I don't think he's not going to be here much longer. We do want to move one of our corners, like Rasul Douglas to safety, and that would be a good fit. Then we have people like Anthony Harris. Nick could grab on him a little bit more, like talk about him a little bit more. Um, but Anthony Harris, he was a great guy this year. He played awesome. He was the number one ranked, I think, according to PFF for free
He was
safety.
a number one safety.
Yeah, yeah, he was
He had
he was
six
pretty good.
picks. Just what you want, that rangy center fielding safety. Um, he's just so good when there's so few actual center fielding safeties in the league. I think a guy like that, somebody's gonna definitely want to pay him. Another guy he's more of a hybrid safety. He can do a little bit of everything. It's the Broncos safety, Justin Simmons. I can see the intrigue with this guy, but I don't think Denver lets him go. Um, I think he'll be one of their priorities. Another guy is Devin McCourty, getting up there in age. He could be, if he doesn't go come back to New England, maybe a team like Miami or um, the Lions just brings him in just for a veteran, like locker room presence and a guy that's familiar with that Belichickian scheme. Um, then you got more of a box type safety with Ha Ha Clinton Dix. He'll be on the market. Um, I
He's
don't I don't
been
really
all around.
know. Yeah, I don't know what the market is for those more of those box safeties.
Yeah.
A guy that was a riser this year. You got Jimmy Ward from the Niners. We'll see how he plays in the Super Bowl. Maybe makes people rethink that his versatility. He could play slot. He could play free safety. He could do a little bit of everything. Another guy I put down was Trey Boston. He's just been a guy that's been getting passed all over. Like he didn't sign until late before the season started, and he was a pretty good free safety for the Panthers. So I don't know why he doesn't get signed sooner. I mean, he's a pretty good safety. The last guy I had on my list was Carl Joseph.
Good pick.
I don't know if the Raiders can bring him. Well, I mean they can bring him back, but they
Maybe
did
they won't.
draft Jonathan Abram, and
Yeah.
I view Abram as more as a box safety. So I don't really know if he could be that center fielder. Um, but a guy like Carl Joseph, if you're looking for a box safety, I mean he's probably an ideal fit. He's pretty athletic. He's not afraid to tackle. He could play some linebacker for you in nickel dime situations. So I think that's a guy that's pretty under the radar. That could be a nice pickup.
Yeah. I think
And
you touched on
do you have
all.
any other safeties?
Nah, man. I think you covered all of them pretty well. I'm not gonna lie to you. Evidently, from this entire list, who do you believe gets paid the most? Is it the DBs, the edge rushers, or the linebackers?
Definitely edge. I think those top three edge guys, and I'll throw in Byron Jones. I think
That's
Byron
he does.
Jones gets paid. Those are the four that I think will make the most money. Um, then maybe a guy like Chris Jones comes in there, and then you get guys like Justin Simmons. Um, Corey Littleton will be somewhere up there, but
Like
um,
they'll get paid and they'll play good on their team, but they won't be like you know what I mean.
yeah,
Like
I mean
significant.
a lot of these positions are positions that do get addressed in free agency more often than not. Like the safety market, teams don't really draft safeties that much, so
Yeah.
I think the safety market, those will be guys that come off the shelf pretty quick. Edge as well. I think the IDLs, interior defensive lineman. I don't know. I don't really know the market outside of Chris Jones. Chris Jones will get
Yeah,
his money.
maybe Michael Pierce and Shelby Harris, but other than that, I
Yeah.
can't see a lot of
Um,
people doing more than a 1 year
so
deal.
I think this is a good spot to wrap it up. Hope you guys enjoy the award show tomorrow and enjoy the Super Bowl on Sunday. And we'll probably be back on Monday. We'll recap the Super Bowl, maybe get a post Super Bowl mock draft since the order will be determined. So thank you guys for listening. If you're listening on YouTube or watching it on YouTube, leave some comments down below. If you feel like we missed out on something or our points didn't make sense, we'll be happy to talk, whatever.
Fight up.
So thank you for listening, and we're out.